Welcome to another episode of a Sage Studio. I'm Tiffany Webster, and Christian Jackson is back.
Part
I
2, let's
love
get into it.
it. It's so good. And today, what we're going to dive into is really about how AI is impacting our students. And so I thought I'd have a little fun with this. I went to the source, I went to ChatGPT, and I decided, okay, let me put in a little prompt to see what ChatGPT would say
Mm,
about how students are being impacted and can best utilize
yep.
ChatGPT and AI tools. So I thought maybe we'd go through the list and I could get your feedback and compare it to what ChatGPT had to say about that. What do you think?
I'm very curious to know what it says. Like, I
Okay.
always feel like whenever I ask for it to give me examples for how it can help me, I'm always like, "You can't do that." So let's see what it says.
Okay. All right. Let's dive in. All right. So, number one, ChatGPT said that one of the best ways that students can utilize AI is for homework help and tutoring. So, talk to me a little bit about how you've seen students capitalizing on the power of AI to help them with tutoring and homework support.
I've heard some anecdotes. I've heard some really good stories about, hey, I was a high school student. I had a really tough class. I really wasn't understanding the curriculum as instructed from my professor or my teacher. I asked ChatGPT to help me on the homework, and it would always get the math wrong. But because it listed out the steps, I was able to do it myself,
Mm.
which is enormous. That's huge. Like just learning how the steps work, having explained it to you at a level that you would understand is extremely helpful. I think that is an obvious and great use case. It's just all about knowing exactly how to get what you want and not do a disservice to yourself by taking the easy way out.
Yeah, and I like the guidelines you put in there. Am I using this to help me better understand the process of how to do something? Or am I using this as a way to get out of completing an assignment on my own? I think that's a
Exactly.
good distinction. Good distinction. Okay. Number two, ChatGPT says that AI can really support students in writing assistance. And we did touch on this in our first episode and talking about those English teachers and the utilization of AI in the writing process when it comes to brainstorming and outlines.
It's a tough question to answer because at the end of the day, it comes down to it's less of what I think about a student using AI to go write an essay. It's more about how has that been embedded into the larger aspect of curriculum.
Mhm,
Because if it's a shortcut and that's all it is, obviously that's to the detriment of the student. They're not going to learn.
mhm.
But if the teacher is going to have the good student go write the essay with AI and then come back into class and then redline the essay about where they think they can improve it, that's a completely different story, right? There's something to be said about the thought process that goes into that, how we train to get those light bulb moments and then have students synergize different concepts.
And then what about AI as far as some of those assistive practices, like we were talking with grammar, with spelling, Grammarly, Google Docs, some of even the parts that are in Magic School, which is an AI software that I know some of our teachers are looking into. And that really allows students to utilize some of these tools to support them in their writing.
Grammarly's been around for maybe over a decade now,
Mhm.
right? Helping people clean up their essays before they submit it. There's nothing wrong with spell check that we've had in Microsoft Word for all this time. If a student can learn prior to getting feedback from the teacher how they can improve their essay, would anybody disagree that that's fantastic? It's great to speed up these feedback loops. With these tools that students are going to be interacting with in the future, how do we make sure that we have safeguards built into them so that students aren't allowed to just go get the answer to the question that they're looking for or are supposed to answer and instead have to iteratively think and problem solve to get to the end goal? And I think there's tools out there that do a good job of that right now, and it's only going to get better. In the best case scenario, if we have a world where we have good digital citizens with our students
Mhm.
and they know how exactly these tools are being made and how they should be interacting with them, I think that's a net positive for the world instead of just having a few people know how to use them and most do not.
Yeah, I love how you worded that. I think that's perfectly said. Totally. Okay, moving on to area number three. ChatGPT suggested that students can use AI for language learning, learning other languages, communicating with others in other languages. Where are you seeing this in education?
That is one of the most interesting examples, I think, in California as well, because we're seeing a lot of influx of students who may not be literate in being able to read English or Spanish, right?
Hmm.
And we have to really tailor a lot of say for English class, we're learning how to read, tailor our readings for students. So I just had an example told to me yesterday. A teacher is taking her reading materials for her fourth grade, fifth grade classes and then uploads them to GPT and says, rewrite this at a second grade reading level.
Mm,
And she can hand that out to the couple of students in her class that need a second grade reading level. A step up from that, translate the same reading to Spanish, put it
mhm.
at a second grade or eighth grade reading level. And then you have an even more integrated and refined coursework for that particular student. So I think AI does a great job of allowing us to fine tune our curriculum and our coursework to better tackle the needs of each student.
Yeah, I think that's so true, and, my teacher brain is going a mile a minute here, and it makes me think back to when I was working directly with students. I would work oftentimes with students who were developing the English language, but they might be like 5th graders, 6th graders. So
Hmm.
to give them reading material that is equivalent to See Jane Run, it's hard for them to get interested in that, right? But if you could write something about something that they were interested in, maybe basketball or football or whatever it might be, and then ask a GPT to translate that into a language and at a reading level that fits for them, wow, that would be highly impactful, I would think.
It's impactful, and who doesn't want to see a student that's actually engaged with material, right?
Yeah, I think that's a real big benefit that we're gonna see in the world of AI when it comes to learning is the languages and being able to
Mhm.
communicate with other people and translate things in different languages. So awesome. Okay, number 4, research. Using ChatGPT or AI tools to do some research. The old give me 10 websites on the gold rush, right? Those types
Yes.
of things. Where do you see
Mhm.
that fitting in?
I think it's very important for students to know where how to source information. And I think
Mhm.
that comes back to the whole digital literacy and digital citizen aspect that I touched on a little bit prior. I use tools like Perplexity, for example, to help me do research before I have conversations with people, just so I can better understand their background and where they're coming into the conversation at, right? Great for information, but a good qualm there is you should probably know to click on the sources that it's giving you so you can double check to make sure that it's accurate. It's like asking, is the internet helpful with research? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
But again, the internet was also very harmful with misinformation and hiding some of the truths, right?
Yeah, I like that. Fact checking is huge.
I use it literally every day to help me research.
Yeah.
Every day. And there's always those 1 or 2 times where I go, good thing I clicked on the source because I would have said something completely inaccurate in this call.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Okay, number 5, study and revision tools. Creating things like flashcards or vocabulary lists. We've seen there's some like study.com or Quizlet, some of these other softwares that they can generate some flashcards and things for you based on a topic. How do you see AI playing a role in student study tools?
This is a pretty quick and easy one. I mean, we have Quizlet. They just introduced some AI tools. I could easily take my notes from class, take pictures of each of them, and upload them to ChatGPT and say, make this into a slide deck.
Mm.
I remember, goodness gracious, I remember being in high school and having those 100 plus Spanish vocabulary words I had to study up on. The biggest time suck for the class is me uploading all the words to Quizlet. If I could just take a picture now and then have the Quizlet make the flashcards for me, oh my goodness, I would have had an extra another 2 hours of study time.
That's a big plus right there, and that's a really good point, is you take some of the weight out of the actual task of doing the prep on the study materials, and you actually pour that extra time into studying. That
Into
sounds like
just
a pretty
study.
smart idea.
It's a good trade-off. Not
Yeah,
bad.
I like it, I like it, I think that's really good. Okay, number 6, I think this is a good one. Scheduling and time management. So using ChatGPT to help you maybe plan out your study schedule, put things on the calendar. What do you think about students using AI to help them with that?
I'd love to actually hear your input first because you said you love this one. I'm sure you have some use cases already top of mind.
Here's what I love is I love automation because I don't have to think twice about something. If I don't put it on my calendar, it doesn't happen. So it's I like to make sure that when I'm in the moment that I can put in a date with something I need to remember. And I love too if I'm just putting in a place where I have to be and then the address automatically populates and then it generates directions.
Mhm.
And like all of that is so efficient.
I know this is something that actually LAUSD is looking into right now as well. I think they're going to build this into their ed tool, but they're going to be sending reminders to students on, hey, you have practice at this time. You also have these assignments due. So it's almost like a buddy that helps them set up their schedule and their time.
I think those are all really good points. And from a teacher perspective, and specifically, coming from Sage Oak, where it's an independent study program, I've noticed that sometimes the black hole that people get sucked into, my students got sucked into, was that they would forget a due date, then they would get behind, then it would become so overwhelming that they just would want to just block
Mhm.
it out. And the assignments aren't going away. They're just like stacking up in the background. And so that was really something that I was always trying to improve and look for new ways where I could help my students before it got too far down into the black hole, that they could be like, hey, okay, I am a week behind. How can I repace my schedule to make sure that I could get caught up with these 5 assignments while also
That's a
doing these
great
new
point.
5? And
Mhm.
then that way you're like, "Okay, look, you're not too far gone. Okay, you're gonna have to double time it for 3 days, but by this date, you're gonna be back on track." So I think that would be tremendously helpful for them to utilize some AI to support them in repacing.
And that's not even a use case I had considered before because my brain didn't even go to the students who are behind schedule and have to catch up and helping you build a plan to get back on track. That's a phenomenal use case because a lot of times students just go, out too
Yes!
far gone. I
Yes!
guess it's not happening.
Yes! And then they don't wanna talk about it. Then they're like, "I don't wanna say how far behind I am now because I don't know what to do
No
about
one
that."
does.
It's
You don't
so
want to ever
true.
tell your boss you're not gonna get that assignment in on time, right?
Right, right. So, yeah, so I think that could be a good one. Okay, number 7, exploring career paths. How is AI supporting students in exploring career paths? And I mean, let's even talk about the AI jobs. So, talk to me about those things.
This is very apt. I always feel like timing is just perfect in a lot of these education conversations I have. Just yesterday, I was helping a teacher build out a school AI space to act as a chatbot to help her students dive deep into potential careers that they're interested in. And she set one up herself, had some questions around how to better refine the prompting so the system actually did what she wanted it to do.
Mm,
And we ended up with a tool where a student could go on there and give very uninterested inputs, right?
okay.
Hey, what's a career that you want to do? Backflips. So that goes, okay, so it seems like you like athletics and maybe a little bit of gymnastics. Have you thought about anything in these spaces? Boom, boom, boom. And then it started to go and get that conversation rolling. So there's tools that can help you just explore careers.
Mm,
It's a lot easier now to just learn about a space. Take, for example, if you wanted to get into sports, right?
mhm.
But maybe not as an athlete, you want to get into maybe the managerial side or the professional side, lawyer, law, whatever you wanted to do. You can now go to the AI and say, hey, what are the accreditations and certificates that I need to be able to get into this role? Where can I go do that or go learn that? Are there any free resources online that I can start taking classes to be able to do it?
Mm,
Again, going back to your research question earlier, helping you with your research.
yeah.
We don't have to get into the conversation about what jobs are around with AI, right?
Mhm,
But I think it's imperative that we get our students prepared now to be able to be better critical thinkers, better big problem solvers, better communicators with themselves, peers, and this technology so that they are better equipped for the jobs that are going to be arising and to come in this new digital age.
for sure. And utilizing these skills, these AI skills to conduct their business, whether it's marketing or communications or other things, using the AI as a tool.
I'm not sure if we'll get into this later on, but I have to add one point to this about just how important communication is,
Mm,
right? And how these tools really do help you hone in on your communication. Again, talking to a teacher, and she's seeing the students interact and prompt the AI, and the students now get frustrated with the technology, and she's the one helping teach the students. If you look at what you asked the AI to do, you didn't communicate exactly what you wanted from it. So it gave you what you asked for. It's just not what you wanted, right?
mm, mhm,
Um, the reason I mentioned that, when we talk about those skills and working with these tools, a lot of it's just communications abilities and communication skills, managerial skills. And it's a great silver lining that I don't think a lot of people have identified yet. But if you
mhm.
work with these tools and you start to be frustrated with them because they're not giving you what you want, reread what you asked for and then see if you could communicate that better. Because at the end of the day, it's a stranger that you're talking to.
Yeah,
If you
it's
don't give the
true.
stranger all the context, then you're not going to get what you want. So I think that's like a very beautiful silver lining. It's like almost using the technology helps you communicate better with people in your real life. So,
Right.
anyway, a little
You
tangent
know
there,
what?
but
I
question
really
for you,
like
too.
that, and I think that's so true. I think that is one of the components of it that gets overlooked a little bit, is that it's not just instant buttons, like, you do have to put in the prompts to generate the kind of results that you want to get from AI, and if you aren't clearly communicating what it is that you're looking for and the way you want the AI to generate those results for you, you're right, you're not gonna get what you are expecting, so learning how to communicate in these prompting ways is really important, and it does help you to not only be a better communicator with AI, but with people as well, because you start to get clarity on how you communicate your ideas or thoughts or questions, expectations, all those different things. So
Mhm.
so good. Okay. Love that idea. Okay, let's talk about number 8, which is personalized learning. And we've touched on this, and I think this is one of the things that makes Sage Oak so excited to bring some of this technology in to the learning is because of the personalization features. So, what do you think about how you're seeing that benefit students?
I think Sage is doing a great job being a pioneer in this space. Personalized learning and increased feedback loops will be the biggest.
Mhm.
You can imagine how much faster they're gonna learn. Every
Mhm.
student will get stuck on different parts of standards and curriculum than everybody else. But if this tutor that's built into the device that they're practicing the coursework on knows exactly the standards that they're already good at and knows how to communicate with that student, can you imagine how much more refined that communication and those teachings are going to be for that student?
Oh, it's just
And
exponential.
exponential growth. So
Mhm.
personalized learning is super important. I mean, a one-on-one tutor for every student, no matter the income level or
Mhm.
area or region of the student, is immensely powerful.
I agree. I think it's very powerful. I think it's gonna be one of the biggest things that impacts and changes the landscape of education, that personalization side. So exciting. That leads us to number 9, which is creative projects. And we've talked about this a little bit. And I had a really great conversation with our high school principal, Tracy King, and she was sharing with me about some of the ways that they can already start to envision utilizing these AI tools for students to be creative with the projects they are working on. How are you seeing creativity kind of change and projects change as a result of AI integration?
We want to have more goal-based and project-based curriculum and coursework. Why don't we have semester or trimester long projects where
Mhm.
students groups are put together and you have an end goal that you look to accomplish over the course of the semester? And it's a lofty one. And you're going to go back and forth for a couple of weeks with the teacher to make sure that it's a lofty enough goal. And then you're going to have to figure out what the tasks are that you have to complete to accomplish that goal. And if AI is a tool that's used to get it done, fantastic. But it's not going to be just a completion goal. It's not going to be, I'm going to write a 200-page essay. That's not going to work.
Right.
But if you set a big lofty goal and you accomplish it,
Mm.
and if you tackle state standards along the way and you tie that goal into the learnings that you're used to teach already knows they're going to tackle over the course of the year, I mean, talk about getting students bought into curriculum. So that would be just my favorite use case of how I hope teachers and educators take this. That's just a beautiful implementation to me.
Totally. Agreed. All right. And number 10, which I think is really great, is that students can really use some of these AI support tools for some mental health and some well being and support in that regard. How are you seeing students use AI in that way?
Do you use AI as a counselor or a therapist, right? There's a lot of considerations there around data
Yeah.
and knowing what to share with computers and what not to share with computers, and also human relationships and human connection, right?
You know, when I think about mental health support or just overall well being and self care for our students, I think about not necessarily talking to a computer or talking to a AI generated therapist. Cause like you, I feel like there's some things there that could go awry and that we need to make sure that our kids are in a safe place. But where I have seen to be really beneficial is things like the Calm app, where you just need something
Mm.
to like bring you down when you're feeling a little bit anxious. Or, if you were using either software or GPT to be like, hey, what are 10 steps I can take when I'm feeling overwhelmed to refocus and recenter? Right. I think that those types of tools could be really helpful. And I've seen other apps that are reminders of, hey, here's your reminder to breathe every 20 minutes or every 50 minutes. Here's your reminder to go
Mhm.
outside and get some fresh air, right? And so that is AI generated. But I think
Yes.
those are some tools that can just help students to take a deep breath. What do you think about those types of tools?
We are going to see very soon a lot of progress in terms of take Apple, for example, with the Apple Watch. They're already getting so much information about how long you're sedentary through the day, how much exercise you're getting, what your blood pressure rate is. All these other bits of information about you. I could imagine there being like a AI breath coach.
Mhm.
Let's say you have the heart rate monitor, and it's tracking what your heart rate is and says, "Hey, would you want to do a breath exercise?" And then you have the AI breath work coach walking you through a calming one, or maybe an energizing one, or
Right.
solitude inducing one. So all those different aspects are very interesting to me. I think for students, it's very much so about teaching students how to take care of themselves
Mhm.
and not get too anxiety ridden. And we're seeing
Mhm.
such a big spike with that in the youth right now.
Mhm.
Tools are going to get better at being able to service that. Shoot, I'd be surprised if Apple isn't leading the way on that by the end of the year.
To be continued on that conversation, but I think it'll be interesting to see where AI
Very.
takes us there. Okay, so we have so much still to cover, but I want to save some for our episode 3. Just a quick review of what we talked about in episode 2 today was the 10 ways that, according to ChatGPT, students can utilize ChatGPT and AI. So, number 1 was using it as homework help and tutoring help, and we're seeing that taking place. Number 2 was as a writing assistant, maybe supporting students with some of that generation of ideas or outlines, but still, we're saying, let's keep some art in the writing too and don't let GPT or AI do all the work. Number 3 was learning different languages. Number 4 was using it as a research tool. Number 5 was using it to revise and edit work and also as like a study assistant, those flashcards, vocabulary lists, things like that. Number 6 was for scheduling and time management, and we said we love the automation side of that or even the repacing. That's really gonna be a great way to
Repacing. Yep.
utilize the AI. Love that. Okay, number 7 was the exploration of career paths. Number 8 was personalizing learning. Number 9 was creating projects with the AI tools, and number 10 was that mental health and being application. So good. I'm pretty impressed with this list from ChatGPT. I have to say, I think those are 10 really great ways that students can use AI and ChatGPT into their learning.
That was a very in-depth discussion about all the ideas that it gave, what implementation looks like now, what it could look like. So now I'm curious to know what the next chat's gonna be about.
All right. So, coming up in episode 3, we're going to break down some of the things ChatGPT suggests students should be cautious of when it comes to using ChatGPT and AI. And then we'll also get into some best practices for parents when it comes to supporting your kids with the security and efficiency of using AI. All right. So, stay tuned. Ready for episode 3.
Yeah, this is funny. It's almost like we're doing an audit on ChatGPT interviewing itself.
I know. I love it. I love it. All right. Stick around. We'll see you in the next episode 3.